Okay, so welcome to day one. In today's module, we are going to be covering how to identify your buyer persona. So in today, there's going to be 4 different sections and there is going to be a worksheet below this video for you to fill out. If we just run through the 4 steps to success. So number 1, we have research. So researching your ideal prospects. Before we can figure out what kind of copy we want to write through our profile, what kind of messages we're going to use in outreach, we need to understand all the different aspects of our ideal clients and what makes them tick, what they struggle with, what they wish their dream scenario could be like with their business. So for this, we have to research. I would recommend turning to Google or YouTube. There's so many free resources, so much free content on the internet that you can go and just find out everything about your niche and put yourself into your prospect's shoes. Point number 2 is to identify pain points. So this is mainly so that we fully understand what your prospect is struggling with and how we can help them. So if we identify their pain points, we know what they struggle with in their business, we can then alter our messaging to that because we better understand them and we can better speak in their language. Point number 3 is to identify customer goals. So in terms of their point A and point B, where they're currently at, what they're struggling with, and what does their point B look like. So what is their dream scenario when it comes to their business? What do they wish their day looked like? Do they wish that they had more time? Do they wish that they spent more time on sales calls instead of actually doing the operational stuff inside the business? So what does their goal look like and how can you help them, which is point number 4. So how can you help them? We've researched them, we've identified their pain points, we know where they are at currently, where they want to be, and then what service can we offer which helps bridge that gap from point A to point B. So these are the 4 steps to success. I want to run you through the worksheet for today because we get into a lot of the LinkedIn learning stuff from tomorrow, actually from day 2. Today I want you to fully arm yourself with all the resource that you need, all the knowledge that you need on your client so that you've got this information held in this worksheet. You can print it out, have it next to you when you're completing everything else out throughout this week. And I promise it's going to be half the heavy lifting. Some of the most important sections is actually what we do off LinkedIn before you even go onto the platform itself. So they're the 4 steps to success. Let me run you through the worksheets. So day 1, identifying your buyer persona. You can see step 1 is to answer all of these different questions that I've got laid out here. All you need to do is go into File, make a copy, and add it to your own Google Drive because you won't be able to edit it from my Google Drive. Obviously, this is in my drive, so you need to make a copy, add it to your drive, and then you'll be able to go ahead and edit it yourself and answer the questions. So complete these 6 questions. What industry does your ideal prospect belong to? Where is your ideal prospect geographically located? What is the company headcount of your ideal client? You could also answer self-employed or startup if that's the kind of companies that you're going after. What language does your ideal client speak? Typical seniority level, and if applicable, what function does your ideal prospect carry out? So if you have a little bit of background knowledge on LinkedIn, you'll recognize that a lot of these questions will end up correlating with Sales Navigator search terms. So when you're filling this out, this is kind of prepping and priming yourself so that when we come on to doing outreach to finding our clients on Sales Navigator, you already have half the information from today. So answering these 6 questions is step 1. Step 2 is finding out the most common pain points. Now, the best way to do this is to speak to current or previous clients, ask them what their pain points are, and obviously that's a direct insight into your target market. If you don't have any current or previous clients, maybe you're just starting out, you can just turn to the internet, as I said earlier, and go and do some research and find it out for yourself. So step 2, I've given you a couple of examples here, but you can go ahead and do your own niche research for who your target prospect looks like and then fill these 3 points out. Obviously, you have more than 3. That's great. Like, you can still add more than 3. It's not limited to just that. After step 2, we have step 3. So we need to figure out what mistakes your ideal prospect is likely to be making so that we can figure out what kind of service we want to offer them and how it solves that problem that your prospect currently suffers with. So Google, YouTube, go and research the 3 most common problems they may encounter and list them down below. I've given you a couple of examples for someone who's targeting e-commerce businesses for Facebook ads. So a couple common problems that you see with this niche would be that an e-commerce client may not have a pixel installed on their website. They may have bad copy if they are running ads, or they may not be running ads at all. So that's step 3. Step 4, I want you to print this worksheet out after you've filled out all the answers and keep it next to you on your laptop whilst you go through the rest of this crash course throughout the 7 days. So print this out, keep it by your side. Knowing who you're looking for is half of the heavy lifting when it comes to LinkedIn, because I see so many people, I have so many sales calls, I have so many clients that come to me and they say, Natasha, I'm sending out these messages, but they're just not responding to me. Like my response rate is really low, or my connection request rate is really low. And I'm like, well, who are you targeting? And they're like, oh, well, I'm targeting marketing and advertising agencies. And I'm like, okay, what size company? And they're like, oh, I don't know, like sometimes 11 to 50, sometimes 1 to 10. I'm like, okay, so who are you targeting in those companies? And they're like, oh, the owners. And I'm like, okay, so you target lots of different company sizes with one person that you're targeting. You're not even really that clear on what your ideal prospect looks like, because your messaging and who you're targeting is going to change depending on the company size. Because it could be that if you're going after a really large company, if you're going after like a Fortune 500 company and you're targeting the founder or the owner, that might be slightly trickier than if you're targeting a startup or someone who's self-employed, where they're the only person who is a decision maker involved in the process. So you really have to tear this apart down to a micro level and really understand all the different components of what your prospect looks like, so that we know exactly who we're looking for and we can kind of laser focus on them when it comes to Sales Navigator searches. So that is it for day 1. I really hope that you find this worksheet useful. Please make sure to comment in the Facebook group once you've completed this worksheet, what niche you're in, who your ideal prospects are, who you're targeting, just so that you can kind of have some accountability in the group, and make sure that every day as you complete each day, you're posting in the group that you've completed the worksheet, or if there's a couple exercises later on in the week where you can actually complete it and post it into the group directly. Like, for example, like a post that you've written, post it in the group for other people to see, just so that you're held accountable and that you actually complete these steps before the day after. So that's everything for day 1. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow for day 2.